In late 2022, while visiting an area of central Kentucky with a history of alleged Sasquatch activity, I was solo investigating this location at night when I heard what sounded like a nearby wood knock. Oh, that sounded like a knock. Shortly after that, I captured a large animate object quite a distance up on a hill with a pulsar thermal camera, as seen in a previous Beyond the Trail video titled The Kentucky Sasquatch Search. I tried my best to analyze what was captured on thermal, but without much to work with, it was largely speculative. I was finally able to return to the location in late 2023 in order to do a recreation and explore this location, and that is exactly what is entailed in this video.
I'm the founder of the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. I've been researching Bigfoots for over 3 decades in Kentucky. I'm also a BFRO investigator for Kentucky. I've interviewed over 500 credible witnesses in 30 years. Law enforcement, park rangers, mothers, children, very credible people. And based on those witness testimonies, I'm able to hypothesize their behaviors. I can figure out where they live based on the witness testimony, some of their characteristics, their physical characteristics. We can learn a lot from witnesses because, as you know, we don't have a lot of videos or pictures of Bigfoot. So the witnesses tell us a lot of information. So Anderson County in Kentucky has 29 reports. Of those reports, we've got hunters that have seen them. I got a report of a hunter seeing 2 Bigfoot cross a field about 100 yards in 10 seconds. The first one was large, dark in color, 6 to 8 foot. The second Bigfoot was more coyote colored, around 6 foot. And 3 times the Bigfoots turned at the waist and looked behind them as they crossed the field. And he watched them under his scope. And I asked him, how come he didn't shoot them? Because I would never shoot one, but I get the question all the time, how come hunters don't shoot them? He said, I was deer hunting. And what if it was a person? And plus my mind's trying to wrap around, what am I looking at? And by that time, the Bigfoots are gone. So that happened not far from here. There's just so many sightings in this area, and I've also had my own interactions in this area. So we come to these spots where there's been lots of sightings, and we hope to get a thermal hit, record audio, look for tracks, etc.
Anderson County isn't exactly the kind of place I'd imagine Sasquatches to thrive in, especially compared to areas of eastern Kentucky, steeped in the foothills of the Appalachians. But the history of reports out of Anderson County going back decades is intriguing enough.
One historic encounter is Lynn Hutton was bow hunting with his young son, and they came out of a cedar thicket, daytime, came face to face with a Bigfoot. And he was trying to keep his son behind him because his son wanted to see it. And he's also trying to reach in his coat pocket to grab his pistol, never breaking eye contact with the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot slowly backed up into the tree line, never breaking eye contact. Lynn described it as hairy, massive shoulders, long arms, heavy brow, large black eyes. Although, when we asked him further about it, he said it kind of looked human-like. And I get that a lot from witnesses in Kentucky. Close encounters where the witness said it had a wide hooded nose, not like a gorilla nose, more like a human nose. We found the same creatures in the same area based on the same behaviors, the same physical descriptions. I'll give you a good example. There's a Bigfoot in Kentucky we nicknamed Howdy, and he's from Anderson County. And back in the 60s, Mr. Tyndall saw Howdy walk out of the forest and raise its arm up like it's waving. Numerous people had seen Howdy over that decade. Fast forward to 2011, 2 teens from Florida moved here. They had no idea about Bigfoot in Kentucky. They had no idea about Howdy. They were playing in their yard, and this hairy creature walked out of the forest and raised its arm up. And we're like, wow, you saw Howdy. So that's decades apart, the same behavior. So that's why we think they kind of stay put. It's too risky to go to another state. You know, we got too many shopping centers and neighborhoods and interstates to cross. It's much too risky. As long as they have shelter, food, etc., they're going to stay put. And that's why this is a hot area. If you look around me, it's undeveloped. It's a wildlife management area, actually. So yeah, we have hunters and stuff, but Bigfoots know what hunters do. So when the hunters come out with camo and guns, the Bigfoots kind of back off.
One particular location in this general area, known as Panther Rock, has had a history of strange activity.
Panther Rock is nearby. There was an Indian chief nobody liked, and he was found dead at Panther Rock. And they think maybe the large black cat had killed him. And everybody was happy that he finally passed away. But Panther Rock is actually a cave that goes down in the ground. It is on private property. But around that area, we've got Bigfoot reports, large black cats, orbs, even UFOs. This area is very mysterious. Now, I'm not going to say they're related. I like to emphasize that. A lot of people like to connect the two. There's something I write in my book about correlation and causation. My major was statistics. And causation is when one behavior or an event causes another behavior or event. You have to see it, you have to document it. Correlation is if you get the same orbs and Bigfoots, UFOs in the same area, that could be just a correlation. Doesn't mean one caused the other. You'd have to actually have witnesses to see the Bigfoot, descend from the mothership, so to speak, or change into an orb. And we don't have a lot of reports like that here in Kentucky anyway.
Now that we have covered this region of Kentucky with some backstory, I wanted to focus on the area I visited last year where the thermal in question was captured. I had originally been sent to this particular location last year by local investigator Jeff Waldridge, who frequents this area and told me of various encounter stories from out there. Charlie has worked this area for quite a while and has collaborated on local cases with Jeff as well.
In this region right here, there's at least 20 reports. More than half are in this area right here. And we've documented 2 just last year in this area. In fact, it was just a year ago, right down this road, a lady saw a Bigfoot disturbing her dogs, ran outside, and it ran up the power line cut, and she watched that creature standing there in the power line cut.
Probably about 6:30 when I got off work, and I come home, and in the house, the bathroom, I was using the restroom. The bathroom is the second window that's closest to this side. And I hear what sounds like limbs breaking. I can hear the dogs going at it with what sounds like a growling scream. So I assumed it was a large cat, mountain lion, something like that. I've heard of there being mountain lions and bobcats from the hunters that come down. So finished what I was doing, and I come outside and I ran down here, and I was standing probably about right here. I'm hollering for the dogs, and I can hear limbs still breaking, and the smaller dog, the healer, come down probably about 100 foot from this way, and she was walking down as I was kind of coaxing her to come down. And about that time she gets up to me, I go to holler for the other dog, and I see a bipedal, blackish brownish being. I mean, it looks my size, but given the distance, it's kind of hard to tell. But it stood there for just a little bit, and I'm in shock. I don't know what to do. So we have kind of like a 20-second standoff, and I snapped back to it, and I thought, where's the other dog? So I hollering for Reaper, and he comes down. He's coming down out here, and it takes off barely in the wood line, straight up the hill on 2 legs, long strides. I mean, it looked like cakewalk. I mean, and it's a good incline, and it's not horribly thick, but it's thicker than what I would be able to run through, you know, at that kind of speed and that much ease. About that time, dog come down, foamed at the mouth from side to side, past his jawline. So we went back up there, walked back up to the house.
Can you point out again where it was standing?
Yeah. So right past the pole, there's a little bit of sunlight towards the left-hand side, and after that, there's a little bit of shade that comes to a point. It was about right there. And it got barely into the wood line for me to be able to still see it take off up the hill.
You saw its face?
Oh, it was smushed. It was like it was flat. It was really flat, and it wasn't like how stereotypical how it would be leaned over. I mean, it was straight up, and on 2 legs, stood straight up.
Did it have shoulders?
Yeah, I mean, it was broad. But again, it looked like my size.
How tall are you?
5'4". But from that distance, you know, I guess it could be hard to tell. And given, you know, the brush, you don't know how far it was standing in the brush for it to look like my size. I mean,
good point.
From my perspective, I mean, that's what it looked, and that's what I told everybody when I come back to the house, and I told them, I said, it looked like my size. You know, and they're like, well, if there's one, there's got to be more. I mean, they got to repopulate.
Yeah. There's
no telling how old it was. You don't know. So, my mom and my aunt kept telling me there's a juvenile Bigfoot running around.
Mm-hmm. What color was the skin on the face?
It was dark. It was definitely dark. It blended well with the rest of its hair, which was a dark brownish black. And it was, you know, given the time, it was kind of like this, how there's no really direct sunlight hitting it. So, I mean, naturally, it looked pretty dark.
Earlier, you mentioned one of your friends came over, and he said something that a lot of witnesses say. Can you tell us what happened when your friend came over about telling her about the sighting?
Oh, that they have a festival at the Martinsburg?
Well, not so much the festival. It was more about you didn't want to tell her about the sighting or something?
Like you didn't care if she believed you or not?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way, you know, to tell people about it. And it's not that, I mean, you can think I'm crazy if you want, but I'm not going to sit here and try and convince somebody of something I know I saw with my own 2 eyes. You know, when Mr. Stevens, the farmer, had come down and talked to my mom, kind of like, it was before you guys had, and said that he wanted to talk to me, and which I've never talked to him before, just wave when he drives by. But given the time I get home, he's usually always packed up and done for the day. And me and my daughter went for a walk down the road. One day I got off a little earlier, and he come up from the opposite way, and he stopped and he said, you happen to be the young lady that saw Bigfoot? And I kind of chuckled and I said, yes sir, I guess that's me. So he shut the truck off and sat there and talked to me probably for about 30 minutes or so. And that's when he told me about how he saw it on the road, how it looked like kind of like reflectors he saw red eyes, and then told me about the couple on Crooked Creek that strung up the jar of peanut butter from the tree. So
there's some hills and hollers like we have throughout Kentucky. A lot of people won't go down in these hollers or up these steep ridges because it's too steep. Even behind me, where you got a thermal hit back there, it's going to be difficult for one of us to go up that ridge because it's very steep.
Whatever I filmed last year, and I'm not asking you to make a judgment on what you think it is or anything, but just because I've been obviously trying to run through the possibilities of what it could be. I mean, do you have any ideas about like the other animals that are in this area? What might somebody expect if they're coming into this area, for critter wise, non-Bigfoot related?
Yeah, in this area, we don't have black bear. Now, that doesn't mean one could wander in. Mostly deer here, coyote. I saw your thermal footage, and it's large. Based on the distance, it looked larger than a deer. It could have been a bear. It could have been a Bigfoot. We know Bigfoots will go down on all fours often. So without doing a recreation, it's kind of hard to judge. But yeah, typically we don't have bears here.
As I found out last year, the legendary show Monster Quest had filmed part of their Hillbilly Beast episode in this very location in the late 2000s, with interesting activity.
So they filmed that here. They had some growls happen to them, some rock throwing incidents here. And it doesn't surprise me because I've had my own amazing tree knock interactions here. I've heard growls in this location. It is still an active spot. And again, if you look at the footage of the area, you can see why. There's a ridge behind me that goes miles. There's no homes on that ridge. Even before the ridge, there's a big a river there with a kind of a holler where not many people live. So I can see why the creatures are still here after decades. Like I said, they kind of stay put in certain areas. As long as we don't develop this area, with a shopping center or et cetera, they're going to stay here. They have no reason to move.
Okay, so I am back here in this part of Kentucky where I was last year. I got that thermal. It's now daytime. I'm gonna kind of spend a few hours here, try to get up to that spot where I saw that thing and filmed it. See if I can't climb up on that hill. I'm gonna hopefully do a recreation later with Charlie, see if we can get him maybe up there, and I'll stay down here with the thermal and see if we can gauge a size comparison. He thought it was very large for any critter that would be in this area that distance. So without getting into it too much, I'll just kind of show this area. That's the hill up there. So the object was somewhere top of that ridge that I had filmed. Alright, so this is the exact area, or right about where my car would have been, give or take maybe a spot or two in the parking lot here. But I know it was obviously somewhere in the middle section, and it was facing up towards the hill that night when I got the thermal. So run through the story again. I was going out to the river down there, and I heard a pretty clear knock kind of noise. I don't think it was a gunshot. Sounded pretty close. Oh, that sounded like a knock. Stuck around the area, but it was almost in the high 20s, low 30s temperature wise, so I just wanted to get out, come back to the car and warm up. And as I'm walking through the corner of the field there, I noticed the signature up on the hill up in that area, and initially I thought it was just a rock or something glowing that maybe attracted a bunch of heat from the daytime, because it was so big. And I was only about 6 months or so used to using that pulsar thermal. And you got to realize with a monocular, it's one eye and your screen is about yay big, and you're looking at something at night with one eye. It's very disorienting. So it's actually, there's been times where I've seen stuff on the thermal and it's actually really hard to tell what it is until you put it on your phone or a computer. Obviously bigger screen, you get to see what it is. Sometimes I'll pair it up on the phone app and be able to look at it that way, but that's, you know, it's still not as ideal. So I didn't think it was anything. I'm making my way back to the car. I still see it up there, and then I get to over here, and this is, like I said, where my car basically was. And before I went in to warm up, I stood essentially right here, and I'm filming facing that direction. And then I get into the car and I go warm up for 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was not that long of a time. So I had the car on for a little bit. I warmed up. I get out again, same kind of spot. I scan that same area, and that object is gone. So, and in my opinion, it was an animate object. I do not believe it was something stationary up there. It didn't seem to be there, which of course then I instantly regret it. I wished I had stayed out here, or I had kept the thermal out there. But again, I didn't know, because you're looking at such a small screen, you can't tell what it is. So Charlie seems to think that it's pretty big for any of the local wildlife, even for deer. I did that comparison in the video last year where I had a deer in the field here, and that is basically twice the distance, more than half the distance from me to that, or corner of that field up to the top of that hill. So whatever it is was really big object. So I'm really hoping we get somebody up there, whether it be Charlie or somebody, when we try to do our recreation tonight, that we can figure out size-wise. I mean, it just seemed bulky. That's what was unusual about it, even for a bear, which apparently are very rare in this area. And I'm not making any claims, as I didn't even in the original video, but I did want to come out here and try to at least figure out, maybe get a little closer to what it could have been. Thought about maybe dogs, but it was so far away. And we're talking the top of this ridge up here is where this thing was. I mean, almost at the very top, and I can overlay some of that footage. And the shape is weird, and as Charlie mentioned, though, there have been Bigfoot sightings in this area on all fours. So I can't say one way or another what it is. Hopefully we can get a better idea, but I think what I'm going to do now is head up there and try to actually find a place to cross the creek So maybe for later today we can find a place where we can actually cross and be able to send somebody up there to do the recreation, and then I would probably be here, or somebody will be here with the thermal, and we'll walkie back and forth to see, you know, if it's almost similar conditions. I mean, a lot of the leaves are down here. Or last year when I was here, it was a few weeks after this, so it's about early November now, and that was a couple weeks later, so there's probably a little less leaf cover. I don't know how that's going to affect it. Hopefully not too much, but it definitely, you can see through the woods a good amount. So that's kind of the story, and I think at the time I just didn't realize it, obviously, until I got out of the car, saw that the object was not there, and I wish I could have gotten it moving away. I mean, I really regret just the uncertainty, not knowing what it was, what it could have been. If it's a bear, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. They're pretty rare in this area, so even getting footage of a bear might be something interesting. So that's basically it. I'm gonna head out there and just see what I can see up there and find a place to cross and get over there. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Again, just to get a clear shot for the sake of thermal recreation. Well, since it is hunting season, I'm gonna have to put on my goofy orange vest that I picked up at a convenience store. If I stand out, have this on, and I guess I'm just gonna put my backpack over it, but it should be visible enough. Got some orange on, so that'll have to do. So again, scenario, object was up there. I was coming back through this field here. I would stop periodically, throw him up on the hill, and then continue back to my vehicle. It's a very warm day today. It's about 70 degrees. Very different weather than last time when I was out here last year. I guess people say this time of year in Kentucky it kind of can be all over the place. Plenty of human tracks going this way. It's funny how I've come to a location once. In this case I was here last year, almost exactly a year ago, give or take a couple weeks. You remember it so vividly, and I played it through my mind so many times trying to figure out the distances. So we've got the distance from the parking lot to this field. Per my estimation, seemed like it was around, seems a lot for 400 feet, but it's about 400 feet or so, and the top of that hill was about 1,000, over 1,000 from parking lot. So that would mean this is less than half the distance, and that corner is where I would have gotten deer footage, and this thing was way further up the hill and bigger than the deer, which is one of the largest animals in this area. So go figure. Hopefully I can find a way now to cross the creek, get up on that hill, do a little exploring, find a place tonight for Charlie to go up so we can really get a comparison. Alright, so this is where I would have been. This is where I would have been where I heard that sounded like a wood knock come from that direction. I was out here alone at night, and then that's after that. I stayed for a little bit, didn't hear anything else, and decided to proceed making my way back to the field and to the vehicle. You can see we got the creek here. So I got my muck boots. I'm gonna try to find a way to walk across. The top of that hill is up over there. Old rusted out barrel right there. It's pretty mucky here. Hard to get in. Really hoping I don't sink in right now. As long as it doesn't go past my muck boots, I think I should be okay. It's not a particularly deep river, but it's deep enough. Oh, well, it looks like there's a little place to cross over there. Probably would be a lot easier. I guess I'll just wade my way over there. Luckily, it's just that long little section. Instead of having to cross this whole wider section, we got this, and over here, kind of a area that pulls up, but it ends. I can just cross right here. Oh, this looks like a stagnant pool over here. Don't know how often people get over here. Okay, so I'm about, more than halfway up the hill. River's down there, so I came up this way. Keeps going up. It's interesting, it does flatten out right here. So I guess hypothetically, it'd probably be easier to traverse. Now, I can see the parking lot right there. Let's give it a little more perspective. There's the parking lot. That would be the distance. I believe I can see my vehicle kind of shining in the light. I'll have to move over to see maybe more. I mean, it's hard to see over here. I think I can see my car in there. See that? I believe that's it. I mean, there's a shimmering that comes through that I can see with the naked eye. If that's where my vehicle is. Standing here on this plateau, this seems like a realistic distance. So I'd be curious if from this distance at night you'd be able to see a light. You know, if I had my red light on, which is what I was primarily operating with, how well would you be able to see that? Good question, but this whole flat area here seems like a great place to walk. It's almost, you got a ridge kind of goes along this hill. Scanning the tips of these branches for any potential hair or anything that might have gotten snagged. Something might walk through here. This environment doesn't have a lot of lichens or moss type stuff, so it's a little less likely to get something that you think is a hair than, say, Alaska or even in areas in the northern Appalachians. This whole area just seems like a logical game trail pathway, especially up here where it flattens out from the top of the ridge. It's a good overlook of that whole area. Sure, deer or other critters might use this, but it looks decently well worn. You can kind of see the path going that way. Not path, more of a game trail. Big tree fall there. On the turtle. Hanging out under the log. I'm even higher up on the hill now. this, got a very clear view of the parking lot if I was up here. That's the issue. We don't know how far up or down the hill was. It looked higher up. My guess is that plateau or higher. That one I'm leaning towards less now because there is more space up here. So I'm looking at my vehicle, and it'd be hard to imagine how small I would look on the thermal just from up here. So some human evidence here. An old metal rod. Well, I'm essentially here at the top of the hill. Got a really good view of that parking lot. And I'm pretty much at the top. I think this is higher than the object on the thermal. I was to review the footage on my phone. I could probably tell that it's a little further up. No, I mean, it's actually, looking at it now, it's a little hard to tell. Could have been up here. Very tall object though. A very big object, whatever it was, to be giving off that level of glowing from that distance. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could just sit up here and watch that parking lot. I bet if it was night and somebody was down there with a light, you would absolutely be able to see them from up here. I just wish I had filmed it walking away. Or at least moving away. I mean, I knew it clearly moved. I mean, it could have just been right here and gone right up over that embankment, or just kept going. I mean, the amount of time I was in my vehicle, 10, 15, anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes is how long I was in there. Just warming up, and then I pointed the camera out, and so that's plenty of time for something to make an escape. Or just to move. I mean, maybe it wasn't even paying attention to me. It was just doing its thing. I don't really know what it was, so if it was a creature, we'll see when we get somebody up here if it looked at all human-like. Parking lot's there. Nothing but woods back here, just from what I can tell. From what I can see, this ridge sort of dips down that way. I don't know if the river snake's around there, but I can see multiple hills in the distance. Pretty much all the same around here. So, I mean, I saw a ton of deer down in that river valley earlier. Creatures could be moving around here however they please, regardless of what kind of wildlife it is. Found something that's kind of interesting. Like this area has been almost pushed aside. Kind of weird. As if, and this is a big leap, something is maybe, you could stand right here and look it down in that parking lot. Careful in case there's anything here. Don't see any hair or anything. This one looks like it's been kind of pushed to the side. That's weird. I don't know what to make of that. Could be totally mundane. Just my observation. So there is a bottle of Guinness here that doesn't look pretty old. So maybe a hunter could have been hanging out here, cleared that and tied himself into the tree, or went up in a stand. Not a bad spot for it. Got animals coming by. trying to see if I can see any maybe marks in the tree where a stand would have tore it up. I don't see anything. Could have been just a guy sitting there in a sling stand, just slung it around the tree and was kind of hanging there, just letting it. And there's a wrapper here too. So like 50 or something, yeah. It's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Maybe a hunter was here. Spaced off that trash. Seeing that up there and thinking that it could have been a hunter that was just hanging out in that spot recently made me think, did I film a hunter? Did I film a human being that was up here? Just kind of second guessing myself. Obviously, you should be doing that in general, but I guess I won't know until we get an actual human being up here, do a rough size comparison. Well, it's cool that I now have a better idea of what that other side looks like. For the past year, ever since that happened last year, I really had no idea what it was like up there. I had to speculate. Now that I got to see it, there's just not a whole lot up there. If there was possible evidence of a hunter, very possible. So I don't know time of year. I'd have to look up the dates. It would line up with the hunting season here, because I'm not from here. I don't know the seasons. I know now there's deer hunting going on, or coon hunting too. So there's raccoon hunting going on as well. Looks like my calculations from last year were pretty spot on. With the drone, I was able to determine I'm about 1,000 to 1,200 feet is the hill. So that was pretty much an accurate measurement from using Google Earth last year. Whereas that corner of that field where that deer was seen is just about 400 feet away from me currently. So twice the distance. So just something interesting I'm able to see, and I'm kind of going to just scan the whole area and fly around and just see if there's anything else going on out here. Okay, so we're back out here at night. How you doing, Charlie?
Hey.
Excited? A little nervous?
A little nervous to go up there by myself.
Okay, so because there's only two of us, we're going to have to devise a plan. I think the idea is, at least in my mind, is going to be I help him get up that hill, send him up there equipped, and then I'll come back here, do the thermal thing, and then come back and retrieve you and get you down from there. Just because I know what it looks like. There's just that one little river crossing.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure you have like enough lights and everything you need for going up there. Hopefully, I mean, we'll be able to tell. I'm hoping, because when I got the footage last year, it was a few weeks later in November. It was like end of November.
Right. So
it would have been a little more leaf cover down. I'm hoping it's going to match up in terms of being able to see through the tree cover. It thins out up there, so I think we'll be able to get it. But just in case. Okay. We'll have to just try our best, I guess, and hopefully it gives us an idea of how big or small this thing was, because it looked pretty big from the footage. So
let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, here we go. We're heading out to attempt the recreation. What do you think, Charlie?
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
Because I know about the sightings here, and I'm going to be alone up there.
Yeah, I've got to rush back down here to do the actual recreation.
Well, just rush back up if you hear me scream like a little girl. Just make sure you come up there. Okay?
Yep. Still continuing up. Still glad you agreed to this, Charlie? Okay, well, we've made it to the plateau on the hill here. I'm going to leave Charlie here and try to hustle down there as quick as I can, and we'll see what it looks like.
All right.
All right, badass, brother. Walkie.
Channel mode.
Okay. So, to talk is just the side button here. So that goes to-
Where's 911? Whew. That was a good hike. And I can see you now crossing the river. Yep. I can barely see you.
Yeah, I can see with the light on pretty well.
Okay, so I have Charlie up on the hill. Camera might be able to pick him up. I can't really see him very well with the thermal, and I'm running that pretty hard. So yeah, I cannot see you with the thermal.
All right. I'm gonna take my jacket off. He can't even see me. I can't even see myself here. So he's down there. He cannot see
I'm
me.
looking at right where you are, and I still am not seeing anything.
All right, let me take my coat off.
So there could be two factors here. One, wrong time of year. There could be a little more leaf cover than was present when I was here last year. It was a couple weeks later. I did mention that. And two, he's just not producing the amount of heat that an animal would, because he obviously has clothes and everything on.
Okay, I took my coat off, and I'm gonna walk down here some.
Okay, sounds good. I am, just shine your light towards me for a second so I can see where you're at again. 1 second, let me put it back on.
Yeah, no worries. Alright, I'm gonna see if I can spot him now. Yeah, still nothing.
Lights on.
Okay, yeah, I know where you are. Because I can see the light, but I can't see you on the thermal. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, let me turn this around. I'm gonna show you. Hold on. I can see your light over there. Let me see. Yeah, I can see your light over there.
Oh, you know what? I think I can finally see you.
Do you mind moving like a few feet to your right if you're facing me?
Copy.
Oh yeah, I can see you. You are tiny though.
Yeah, I can see your light right there.
Wow, I still can barely see you, but I saw you move a little bit. But I just can't believe how small you are. You're barely giving off a red signature. How tiny you look from here.
All right, let me move back and forth.
It's unbelievable how small he looks. It's so small compared to that other object.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like right there is a good spot, looks like.
Can you see me now?
I just lost sight of you. I think it may have been higher up on the hill. I'm not going to make you go up there, but just thinking back in the footage, I think it was actually higher up.
I'm still walking back and forth here.
Yeah, I can barely see you. I see you now, but I just can't. I cannot tell you how dwarfed you are compared to whatever that was last year. Tell me when you can see me pretty good, and I'm going to squat down.
Okay, sounds good. I currently... Are you moving? Sorry, say again?
I'm moving to my right.
Yes, I can see you pretty good. Oh, perfect. Right there. Stop right there. I can see you. Excellent.
There's a big hole there.
I can see you perfectly, but thing is I can see like a your body shape, like human shape almost.
Okay, let me crouch down now.
Yep, I can see that.
There we go. So I'm crouched to my knees.
I mean, dude, it's ridiculous how small you are compared to that object. That's all I can say. I mean, I can barely see you, and that you're just not giving off nearly the amount of glow as that thing was.
Yeah, I'm down on my knees here.
Yeah, I'm doing a phone comparison now. Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Well, that's good to know.
We'll obviously be able to tell more once we compare, side-by-side videos, but I can tell you're almost like a blob or a humanish kind of shape. Okay, well I think that's it. I got enough footage. I'm gonna pack this up and just kind of make my way back towards you then.
Copy that.
All right, well, we'll have to do a side-by-side comparison, but he's up there. I'm gonna go get him now.
I'm going to keep the camera rolling just in case something happens. I'm going to try a whoop. You ready? Here comes a whoop. Whoop! Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I was just about to think, oh geez, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to try a tree knock here. Here we go.
Wow, that sounded really good. Do you want me to stop moving for a second here?
Yeah, 1 second.
Heard something moving to your right if you're facing the river.
Yep, that's where it was before. I'm gonna do another knock here.
Anything on your end?
No, nothing.
Alright, I think I'm gonna make my way across the creek now.
All right, copy. Well, this is fun. So that means whatever he saw was much bigger than me. And I weigh 250, I'm 5'11". So it could have been a bear, could have been a deer, could have been a Bigfoot.
So we just made it back. Props to you for going up there. I don't think everyone would agree to just go sit up on a hill all alone in an area where I'm not the one who has all the reports from here. That's you. You know that there is stuff out here. So I commend you for that.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts?
It was a little sketchy. You know, it's very steep, first of all.
Yeah.
It's hard for a person to walk up there. I did hear movement when you left. Something was moving behind me.
Yeah.
This was about 20, 30 minutes later, which didn't make sense because we have lights, we're talking.
Right.
And why would something be moving around me? You would think most animals would leave the area.
That's what you'd assume, yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of odd, and of course you get your nerves going. It gets exciting, but
But there was that one point where you were sitting there, and I even heard something, which, if I'm looking at here, it would be to my left. It would have been to your right, and I heard it move. And that's when I was radioing you, saying, "Hey, did you hear that?" And you obviously did. So it was loud enough that I could hear it.
right. So that's what I'm saying. Something was there. I tried some knocks. I tried a whoop. No reply.
I don't see anything up there now. So as for the footage itself, from my perspective, because I came back here, whatever the thing was that I filmed last year seemed to dwarf you in terms of size. I mean, it looked like it was higher up the hill too.
Right.
When I looked at that footage, comparing it to you, I could barely see you. We had you move around, and you got into that one little clearing where I could see you, but I could kind of tell you were sort of a skinnier figure with like a head. Even when you sat down, kind of broadened you a little bit, but just not the level that this thing was broad.
Plus, if it's higher up on the hill, that would put it further back,
Right.
which should make it smaller, yet it was bigger.
Charlie, you just told me about something really interesting. There's this documentary that's out there by a former friend of yours who's now passed away. I've seen the documentary, and you told me a pretty interesting detail about it.
Yeah, Philip Spencer. It used to be called The Wild Man of Kentucky. Now they renamed it Kentucky Bigfoot. It's the same documentary. But Philip Spencer was right here, spotlighting deer, and he saw a Bigfoot. Two people saw a Bigfoot chasing the deer. And that was
the Bigfoot. That was the report you told me where the Bigfoots kept looking back.
No, that's a different.
Okay.
That's in the area, but this is where he was spotlighting deer with a friend, and they saw the deer and they saw the Bigfoot chasing the deer.
I literally just watched that documentary. That's why I asked you when we did the sit-down interview. I asked you about Panther Rock because I watched his documentary, and I remember there was all these like kind of animations in it and stuff, and you could tell it was from like the early 2000s, but I loved it. But I didn't know that was this very field right here.
It was this field.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So, that's why we think they stay in the same areas. As long as there's no development, which you can see.
Yep.
There's nothing developed over there. We're not encroaching on them. They got plenty of food, plenty of shelter.
There's so many deer out here.
Oh, my, deer's everywhere. I almost hit deer coming in just tonight.
So there's a lot of them out here. So the food's here. You got the corn. Man. It's with this topic, it's one of those things you get these little fleeting glimpse moments, and I can't even say obviously what that was that I filmed, but you can see how this area might be conducive. And you've had stuff happen here.
Return tree knocks. Clear as day. We knock, it knocks right back.
As we stood around the cars conversing, I would scan with the thermal every once in a while, and at one point I noticed what seemed like objects moving on that hill. They appeared to be deer, which would give us another comparison for the final analysis with the original footage. Now that the recreation itself is complete, it is time for a side-by-side comparison. Having both the mystery subject itself, a human stand-in, as well as deer in the same area gives us 3 figures to compare. Since we couldn't position Charlie in the exact same spot as the mystery subject, and where I filmed this from will only be roughly where I stood in the original footage, not the pinpoint exact spot, this comparison will be slightly imprecise, but I'm trying my best to keep it accurate. Here's an overlay of Charlie with the mystery subject, which still appears to be slightly larger than him despite being further up on the hill, meaning further away from the camera. Even on the thermal, I could clearly tell that Charlie was something upright, being able to see his shoulders and a head on top, even while he was sitting, while the mystery subject seems to be lower to the ground, perhaps on all fours. Comparing the mystery subject to the deer does show some resemblance. The deer, however, does not seem to be giving off nearly as much body heat as the mystery subject or even Charlie was, but that could be explained by the fuller leaf canopy from the time period of the recreation, compared to the original footage with less leaf cover. While I'm still not exactly sure what it is, perhaps it was just a deer. That would certainly be the most logical answer, even if our comparison and recreation was not entirely spot on. Despite how rare black bears are in this part of Kentucky, maybe that's what it was, especially for how bulky it appeared. Perhaps a late-season black bear fattening up before hibernation? What about how Charlie mentioned that Sasquatch have been seen on all fours, especially in this area? That possibility doesn't sit well with me in this instance, and I feel it would be too convenient. There's likely a far more rational explanation, like one of the 2 previous options. In reality, I probably won't get to the bottom of what it was that I filmed, and overall, it isn't very compelling evidence of anything, other than some kind of creature, likely on all fours. In this topic, we have to be willing to question ourselves, and especially try to exhaust all the logical possibilities before jumping to the Sasquatch conclusion. Just because an area has a history of Sasquatch reports doesn't give precedence for an encounter.
I think you gotta really debunk stuff. You have to go out. If you got a thermal hit, go out, reenact it, get to the bottom of it. We shouldn't assume everything. Unfortunately, in the Bigfoot world, a lot of people just make assumptions, or they, like Lauren Coleman says, they answer one unknown with another unknown. We shouldn't do that. We should really do the due diligence, do the science behind it, analyze it, reenact it whenever possible. There's too much speculation out there. If you've had a sighting in Kentucky, we would love for you to go to KentuckyBigfoot.com, and you could eventually find the spot where you submit the report. We will call you. We try to meet you in person, on location, because again, we want to know for sure. We want to reenact it. We want to see where the Bigfoot stood, gauge the height, the distance, and eliminate bear or misidentification. So we will try to call you. So if you submit a report, be prepared.
In conclusion, I hope you guys enjoyed this investigation, as I figured it warranted a follow-up to that previous video. I hope to create more follow-ups like this in the future when possible.